Good evening, and welcome to the U Talk Show, where you might learn something. And where I'm going to stridently argue that we should have just gone nuclear in the 1970s so that we averted the climate catastrophe that we're now experiencing. Of course, nowadays, nuclear is not the answer. We don't have enough time, and the clean energy tech has mostly caught up. But damn, I want to punch some greenies in the goddamn dicks.
That's funny
Kyle.
because we disagree here. And we disagree.
That's okay.
How,
You're allowed to be wrong.
oh, motherfucker. No, okay, look, here's the
Hey,
problem.
she
If
wasn't a
something goes
mother at
wrong,
the time, I promise.
just curse your distractions and how they work. Specifically, the fact that they do work. And now I'm thoroughly distracted with thoughts that are not about proving you wrong and showing you just how wrong you really are on nuclear, you dunce. Nuclear, well, one nuclear plant goes wrong and an entire area is then permanently irradiated for a long time.
One nuclear
One,
plant goes wrong and still releases less radiation into the atmosphere than a coal plant does over its entire lifetime.
I mean, true, that makes it better than coal, but it doesn't make it better than renewables.
Absolutely not. But as I said, we should have done it back in the 70s. Because back then, the renewable tech wasn't where it needed to be.
You know what?
I'm not saying nuclear is the
That is
answer
hard to
now.
argue
I'm
against.
saying that
I'll
at
give
one
you that
point it
much.
was the answer and we screwed it up.
Okay, I'll give you that much very begrudgingly because back in the 70s that would have been a decent solution. However, I will tell those people who stupidly think that nuclear energy today is the answer. I would remind them that no nuclear power plant has ever turned a profit ever. Not one single nuclear power plant. All of them need
Weren't you
government
complaining
subsidies to
about how
exist.
society is too much about money these days?
Yes, but that was off camera and that was in regards to a different thing.
I
Okay?
don't know. It sounds very much like this concern with profitability, as opposed to concern about doing the right thing, is part of what led us to this ruinous situation to begin with. I feel that
Yes.
using the same
However,
argument now is disingenuous.
I disagree. I disagree because in building, look, in building infrastructure, or in this case, energy infrastructure that is wholly unprofitable, you are permanently holding back a sector of the economy. It is not just one small little instance that you are, not making a profit on, but rather it is an entire sector that you are forcing into being less efficient
No, no,
and less
no, no.
productive.
You're wrong. You're wrong because people hate spending money on things, right? Governments certainly hate spending money on doing the right thing. That pressure alone would mean that a government forced to prop up an industry which was unprofitable would definitely aggressively pursue alternatives which would be more efficient.
I mean, again, if the argument was back in the 70s, then begrudgingly I'll agree. However, I would say that today, again, not the answer because it's never turned a profit and never will. Renewable energy creates 10 times the jobs that fossil fuel does. Nuclear energy, nowhere near that. Um, Renewable energy is between 15 and 25% cheaper, and again, is profitable within a few years.
Yeah.
Whereas again, nuclear is not. Nuclear energy is hellishly expensive. And
The
if
downside, of
something goes
course, to
wrong with
this
the
is that
nuclear, if some,
the manufacture of renewable energy technology still has a massive environmental toll. As we've discussed previously, what is the
but that
balance
environmental,
between doing short-term destruction and doing the right thing for the environment?
but that environmental destruction is far less than the environmental destruction of every other option that we have. Therefore, having it be the best option. So,
I would
you
agree
could
with
like,
that.
in fact, this actually reminds me of something one of my brothers once showed me. He showed me this place. It was like quite polluted, and it looked like a mud pit with a bunch of like nasty mineral sludge in it that nothing's ever going to grow there, at least for the next 50 years. If that's one or even a few places on Earth in exchange for the rest of the Earth being given a chance to solidly thrive, then that's a fair trade.
It
Especially
is,
when
and
our
we have
current
some really
trajectory, if
interesting
I could finish,
remediation stuff.
yeah, if
Yeah,
I could finish, especially when our current trajectory is the entire Earth going to hell in a handbasket, the entire Earth up shit creek without a paddle. So, as an alternative to that, a few areas being rather messed up is actually quite an upgrade. Whereas with nuclear power, not only, especially for Australia, actually, here's where I think I've got you in the argument. Especially for Australia, nuclear power, much like coal power needs water because the idea is you're heating up water to spin turbines.
I do
Whereas,
remember how
yeah,
nuclear power works. Yes,
yeah, I'm more telling that for everyone watching. Um, but see, we don't have a whole lot of water in Australia. We actually we have very limited water resources as it is. And so no, I've got you and you know it.
no,
And
I've got
so
you.
okay,
I've got
yeah,
you.
tell me.
We don't have a lot of fresh water, it's true, but we are surrounded by seawater. Like that
Can
is some salty,
can that
salty
can that
shit.
work?
And
And
let me
also
tell you, yes, it
can that work?
could.
And also
Because
wouldn't it irradiate the salt which you then need to dispose of?
no, no,
It's not
no,
going to irradiate the salt at all.
the water in a nuclear power plant doesn't become irradiated.
I get that the water doesn't, but then there's salt left behind after salt water would evaporate. And wouldn't that erode or corrode or degrade anything in the nuclear
It could
plants?
it could theoretically corrode or degrade things. However, a nuclear power plant's lifespan is 50 to 60 years, which is also, interestingly enough, about the lifespan of some concrete piping. So, no, you could absolutely build that in as a consideration. And that would also mean, because of the necessity of evaporating water to produce power for turbines, that we would be able to, if we wanted to go completely bananas, build in desalination and thus improve Australia's fresh water supply.
And how long would all of that take to build? As I've seen nuclear power plants take upwards of a
About
decade
15
to build.
years.
Yeah, 15. See, in that much time,
We don't have
it'll
time for
almost
this
be
shit.
2050. Yeah, we don't have time. It'll almost be
I
2040.
agree, but I'm just pointing out that your argument is not entirely sound. I'm still not saying that nuclear energy is the answer right now. But I am
50
saying
years
that
ago,
some
maybe.
of the questions that are leveled at it are not the zingers that they were once thought to be. But we've gotten distracted by nuclear.
Yeah,
So
we've
let's
gotten
talk
really
about how do we
distracted.
reach net zero? How do we
Yeah.
reach net zero without fulfilling my boyhood fantasy and just constructing a bunch of VVAR reactors throughout Australia?
All right. So how do we actually, in a practical sense, and with the technology that we have available today, in the time of, before, idealistically, I think or rather realistically, I think we can reach it by 2040.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can reach net zero by 2040, and how do we do that? Because if
See,
we like
net zero by 2040 is considered to not be possible.
I
Net
disagree.
zero by 2050 is considered to be hard to do, but definitely possible.
Okay, I disagree. I think the logistics itself is kind of a nightmare, but logistics is that's a challenge, not an impossibility. So logistics being a nightmare is something that can be overcome. The thing we really lack is political will. And so, this is as much, unfortunately, as much as it should just be a question of science and logistics, unfortunately, it's a question of politics. So there's three things we need to take care of. There's the science. We've already got that. We've got wind power, solar power. They can make up the bulk of it with a few other
haven't you
things
heard,
on the
Kyle?
side.
haven't you heard that
If you're
we
about to
use
say
wind
baseload power, I
if we
will
use wind power, the wind is going to slow down and my clothes aren't going to dry on the line anymore.
stop trolling me. I swear I am. Every episode, I want to reach through the screen and strangle you.
Good, that I'm doing my job right.
What is your job again?
I can't tell whether it's to be the straight man or to be the comic relief. Sometimes it's to be both at once.
I mean, look, I thought you were going to be the one who like was able to quote all of the scientists that I can't remember the names of, and all of the reports that I can't remember the names of, and all of the quotes that I can't remember at all. So I thought that was your job, but maybe I didn't make that clear. And
okay, so let's look at the science stuff because there is more to this. This is an internal report for the Energy Industry Association.
Do be quick though, because we're running out of time.
And they're talking about net zero by 2050 because they, to paraphrase, that will require that everyone involved hauls ass.
That was the entire world. I'm talking specifically just about Australia.
I think in Australia, that matters because here's the thing: the entire world needs to haul ass. But as you alluded to last recording, Australia can definitely do some heavy lifting here. And what we're seeing as priority action that they've indicated is that government R&D and infrastructure spending needs to be increased. They are saying the political will needs to be there. We need to do electrification of hydrogen, deal with bioenergy, renewable energy, and carbon capture, utilization, and storage. And they're calling out
I don't think carbon capture, in fact, everything I've heard about carbon capture, utilization, and storage.
Kyle, stop. The grasslands thing you're talking about is carbon capture, utilization, and storage.
Well, that's a natural carbon sink.
What you're thinking about is the direct air carbon capture, right? Carbon capture, utilization, and storage doesn't have to be high in the sky technology.
Are we talking about the fracking thing where it's used to help with fracking and oil and that? Okay, all right. So that's what I thought you were referring to.
We're talking about doing things such as embedding carbon into concrete. We're talking about things like we're talking about
you can embed carbon into concrete.
Grassification. Yeah. We're talking about things like grassland expansion to act as giant carbon sinks. It doesn't have to be this pie in the sky technology when we look at carbon capture. It just has to be a way to reduce the amount of free carbon in the atmosphere. And there's a lot of ways to do that. They're also saying we need to make a lot of jobs in clean energy, which is something we've been advocating for.
Yeah, although when industry talks about carbon capture and storage, they're usually talking about just directly capturing it from the air and then storing it or utilizing it basically to get more hydrocarbon resources, like oil and that, which is essentially a scam that the industry has made up in order to look like they're doing things that are productive in reducing carbon emissions, but doesn't actually do anything to reduce carbon emissions. What's been termed recently as greenwashing.
Yes.
So but if we're talking about things like carbon sinks, like grassland expansion, primarily via holistic land management, then yes, that is something that can definitely be done. But let's get back to the sort of the three parts of this original point. So how we transition to net zero, and the three parts of that were the science and technology behind it, the political will, and for the life of me, I'm forgetting the third one. Horst, help me out here.
No, you had the science, the engineering, and the politics as three separate sections.
Oh no, the economics of it. So
what is economics but engineering with extra maths?
You got me there. So okay, so we got we've got wind and solar, we've got other methods. We can definitely
we need to cut the use of fossil fuels by about 80%.
Yeah, but scientifically speaking, we can do that. That is all quite doable. Economically speaking, and engineeringly speaking, the infrastructure is either there already or we're able to build it. And the economics of it, well, the we've already talked about how renewable energy creates 8 to 10 times the amount of jobs depending on variables within the project, and is 15 to 25% cheaper for the electricity production itself. So at the end point, it costs 15 to 25% cheaper than other from electricity from other sources. So economically it works. On the political will side, well, that's where we're having the most problem, because what we're seeing is fossil fuel corporations, donating large amounts of money to politicians, and then those politicians either watering down efforts or parroting talking points about, renewable energy, even really stupid ones, such as the one that you mentioned earlier, with the wind turbines and the wind and the clothesline.
It's one I've legitimately heard.
That just makes it even more sad, disturbing. I don't even know what word to use. All right, let's stop making me sad. So, I think that basically covers everything. I'm not really sure there's much more to say. Horst, do you have anything more that you can say?
Yeah.
What can the average person do? What can the average person do? The
average person can't do very much. That's the thing. We already encourage, especially in Australia, where we live in an environment of extremes, we already encourage a certain amount of environmental responsibility in the everyday person. Don't waste water, all that good stuff. We say that you try and minimize your energy consumption, because coal doesn't grow on trees. We say that you don't waste water because our access to water is under threat. We say that, use the sunshine where you can to dry your clothes. These are all individual scale things. What the individual person other than this can do is, as trite as it sounds, write your elected officials and ask, in light of the stark facts, what are your representatives planning to do?
Okay, so that's what I was getting
at right there. Failures.
Yes, that's what I was getting at right there, is what can they do on a political level? So write their representatives, or in the modern version.
The problem, though, is that until we get
an email,
until we get the corruption, the money removed from politics, what is going to more heavily weigh on an elected official's mind? A stack of 1,000 letters from around the constituency, or a stack of several hundred thousands of dollars from one corporation to go towards an election campaign?
And that is why, and me and Horst have talked about this before a lot, but that's why we need, a political party that does not take money from corporations, or
allegedly the Greens do
special
that.
Interest group. Yeah, but that's
allegedly. I say allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
They allege that they do that. Labor has been pushing really hard on the narrative that, it's donations from the little guys like you that help us do things. I think the Liberals aren't even bothering to try and produce that lie. You can have it all in New South Wales.
We have an effect. We have an effect. What, maybe 5, or maybe 4 or 5 political factions in Parliament. We have, essentially, aside from the Independents, we have the Greens, and then we have like the Teal Independents, which are kind of a group that kind of not. They're like, yeah, and then we have the Liberals and Nationals, which are essentially the same party. It's just one wears hats. And no, I will never stop making
good
that joke.
Hats.
They're good
nice hats.
They're not. They are nice hats, but that doesn't make them any better than Liberals.
None of these bloody Stantons that you see floating around the city. Those are proper Akubaras.
Yeah. So okay. So we got basically.
Don't respect the policy, but I do respect the hat.
Yes. So we got the we've got the essentially the corporate faction. We've got the we've got the eco-corporate faction, which I'd say the Greens are essentially a part of, because
We've
that's
got
what they
the
are.
slightly less corporate faction.
Well, a little more than slightly, I'd argue, not to give them too much credit, but I'd argue that Labour is, they try and thread the line in 50-50, but it ends up being more like 65-35 corporate way, which admittly is a hell of a lot better than any other option at the moment. But
I think that's the first time I've heard you actively endorse the Labour Party. Good work.
You call that an endorsement?
Yeah, I mean, in comparison to what everyone else is doing, that is positively glowing as a recommendation.
God,
that is the state of our politics,
depressing.
everyone.
That is
everyone is so
depressing.
Corrupt that a slightly less corrupt party is the good call.
Yeah, we've run out of time, but the amount of depressing that is could keep this conversation going for another hour, I think.
Okay, so let's deal with the basic question. At the personal level, what can you do to help your country reach net zero?
Okay,
harass your elected officials. Harass your elected officials. Be responsible individually. Demand that the businesses that you do business with are responsible. Vote with your wallet if you can afford to.
Well, that's the thing. You can afford to, because there are companies out there that will supply you electricity from only renewable energy sources, and they're between 15 and 25% cheaper. So you can save between 15 and 25% on your electricity bill by switching to a renewable energy only electricity provider. Do that, and you save money, and you've done something practical at the same time. Also, here's another thing which the journalist and part-time comedian Friendly Jordies has recommended.
Jordan Shanks.
Yes, Jordan Shanks, but I like calling him Friendly Jordies.
He's not that friendly. He's kind of a twat.
Yeah, but that's intent. It's the irony of it.
In any case, what has he recommended?
In any case, he recommends switching super to a super fund that invests in renewable energy projects and does not
I've already done
invest. That. Yeah, me too. Although I might have to redo that because there was some complications there. But in any case, you can very well switch your super so that your savings is being invested in renewable energy, which is actually much more profitable than most other investments. So you can make yourself money, save yourself money, and overall do well by the environment just by switching your your electricity provider to renewable energy, and your super
go a step
to one that invests
in
renewable energy.
Because your
super only got 10 seconds left, so really
your super can't be tapped under normal circumstances. And this is, again, if you can afford to, just buy some bloody stocks or shares in a firm that is doing renewable energy work.
Good idea.
If you have that option, that will allow you to also make money back that you can access before the age of retirement. And if you keep reinvesting seed money as you pull out profits, dividends, that's a way of playing the game that might be useful. Note, we are not financial advisors. That is not financial advice. And anytime you play the stock market, you are gambling. So only gamble what you can afford to lose. If gambling is a problem for you, contact the National Gambling Helpline, which I don't recall the number of right now, or try and speak with your GP, because there are services to assist with problem gambling and the compulsion that won't leave your head. We do not encourage gambling, but if you're going to gamble, you may as well do it ethically.
And with that, we've definitely run over time, and so we'll end it. Funny how that turned into an anti-gambling at the end there, but that's
as the Whitlams once said, show. Blow up the pokies.
And with that, we'll end it. Take care, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks for watching.